What's up, y'all? Naturegirl 30 here, and yes, I did not record a review after the Rumble ended. It's still fresh in my mind. I'm happy that I didn't do a review right behind it because, when your emotions are on high, you're already angry and ready to rage. But then when you slow down and you think about stuff, then maybe it's not so bad. But other than that, y'all, this is my review of the Royal Rumble 2021. To start off, I did not expect the women's tag team match to actually be on the pre-show. I thought it was going to be on the main card, but it was bumped to the pre-show. But to be honest with you, the one thing that kind of surprised me was the fact that Charlotte took the pin. Even though they lost the tag team titles, Charlotte took the pin. You didn't think that she would, but she did. But the match itself wasn't all that bad, but I don't understand why Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are still on a tag team. Shayna does not need her. Shayna needs to be on her own. The fact that they're in a tag team still baffles me. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. But are they doing the belts justice? No. I guess they just need somebody to hold them, I suppose. But anyway, let's move on to the actual main card. It started off with Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg. Now, I am not going to remember the entire order of things, so if I get matches completely, out of order, my bad, but I'm still going to give my own personal opinion about each one. Now, when it comes to Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre, everybody was worried, including myself. I'm not a fan of Goldberg. I'm still not a fan of Goldberg, but the fact that it was a 5-minute match that looked pretty solid to where that Goldberg didn't run out of gas or hurt somebody like he did trying to do the jackhammer to the Undertaker but ended up turning into a brain buster. He did not do that this time. He actually did put Drew over. It was a pretty decent match. He didn't go for the jackhammer again, which made me happy. And the fact that Drew McIntyre used the Claymore kick to knock him out made me happier. But then it also made everybody worried because we were wondering whether or not Goldberg was going to pull double duty and be in the Royal Rumble and actually come back and take the title, or at least try to compete for the title. It shows to me that Goldberg is out of his prime. He needs to stop going for the gold. This needs to be done. A one and done. Dusted. I hope I don't see him again, but I doubt that. So let's move on from there. And I'm going to talk about the championship matches first. But let's move on from there to Sasha versus Carmella. This was actually put in the card a little bit later, so my predictions did not have that on there. But we kind of knew who was going to win anyway. I didn't really need to predict it, just like how I didn't need to predict Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. But I will get to that. But it was a pretty good match. To be honest with you, Carmella has gotten better every time I see her. She has gotten a lot better in the ring, and it was a really good match between her and Sasha. Now, when it comes to Reggie, her champagne something, her champagne concierge, I'll call him that. The fact that Reggie was trying to play both sides, or I guess maybe Sasha was trying to play him, but it seemed like that Reggie was playing both sides, was interesting in itself. But the one freak out that I had tonight was definitely how Carmella just face planted after doing a suicide dive when Sasha was not ready. I am happy she's okay, and Sasha wanted to make sure she was okay, but that was a very, very scary dive. So I'm hoping that she's alright. I'm hoping she didn't break her face, but that was a very scary moment. Even though she tapped out, you can't really say that Carmella looks bad here. She actually does look good, and I was highly impressed. In her match, I was highly impressed in the match she had with Sasha. But let's move on from there to the next championship and the last championship match of the night, and that happens to be Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Now, the video that I did, the reaction video that I did with the Club Atlantis crew, on the real, we talked about everything else but that match. And it's not because the match was bad. It was mainly because we knew who was going to win. So it didn't really matter much to us, because we knew that Kevin Owens was going to lose. So it was no point in even rooting or even caring at all. There were some crazy spots in the match, no doubt. Some crazy spots in that match. And Kevin Owens is insane for doing it. But on the real, we didn't care. We really didn't care. I wish I did. But I will say this. And this gets into one of my biggest pet peeves. I am tired of them literally changing the game in order to tell a story. Now, when it came to the handcuffs, which was brilliant, it would have made more sense if the time started ticking down. If the ref continued the count and didn't stop at 4, it would have been more interesting for Paul Heyman to scramble to try to get that lock off. But they stopped at 4 just because he botched the handcuffs and he couldn't get them off. So he stopped the count. Pretty much took me completely out of the match anyway. I mean, I was already out of the match, but it took me further away from the match. It would have made more sense if the ref continued the count and it really made Paul Heyman frantic even more to try to get those handcuffs off. It would have been more interesting, at least for me. Because even though he is the tribal chief, it would have been interesting to see Kevin Owens win. Because he's been getting his butt handed to him with every single match he's been in with Roman. How interesting would it have been if he actually did win out of a technicality? Yeah, we knew he was gonna get the belt back. We knew that Roman Reigns was gonna get the belt back. But how interesting would it be for Kevin Owens to lose? I mean, Kevin Owens to win by handcuffs. Win by handcuffing Roman Reigns. I'm just saying. It would have been interesting to me. But anyway, the match itself we honestly didn't care because we knew who was going to win. So it just didn't matter. There was no stakes. So we just kind of talked about anything else. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to put a link to that video for anybody that wants to watch it. But let's move on to the Rumble match, shall we? I'm going to talk about the women's because I can't do nothing but gush about how well booked this match was. I was extraordinarily impressed about the entire thing, really. It was so well booked. It had enough legends for you to care, except for Alicia Fox. Somehow she had to be in there, but whatever. But the fact is, you had Victoria in there. She looks good. After all these years, that woman looks good. And she was great. She was great in that match, man. I really enjoyed it. But then business started picking up when Rhea Ripley showed up. This is my brutality! Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to scream that when she came out. But on the real, the fact that Rhea Ripley showed up, you knew that business was about to pick up. Not only that, they had Bianca Belair at number 3. Now, I actually said this in the video. Hopefully, the footage is still okay. Right now, I really don't know. But the fact is, this was, in my opinion, hints of 1992. The reason why I say that is because, number 1, Ric Flair came out at number 3. And then he ended up winning the entire thing. Spoiler for those who have not seen it. But then it was even more interesting at the final 3. And I am not counting Natalya, screw her. But anyway, the fact that you have Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Charlotte as the final 3, and then you have these 2 women who were screwed by Charlotte Flair, ended up having them throw her out. I'm sorry. I just see hints of 92. In the case of Charlotte, everybody hated Flair in that ring. It told such a well put together story because everybody wanted to beat the crap out of Flair. But in this case with Bianca Belair, not only was she the Iron Woman, she actually won the whole freaking thing. No doubt. Now, like I said many times before, I'm not a fan of Bianca Belair, but she has impressed me over the years. She really has. On NXT, no. On the main roster, since last year, I think she was called up in 2019. I could be wrong on that. But either or, when she got called up a little earlier, maybe last year, whatever, I was more impressed with her main roster run than I ever was on her NXT run. I did not like her because, number one, she had a gimmick that every black chick had at one time, the whole ratchet ghetto gimmick that she had for a while. The only difference was that she had the Rapunzel weave that she would constantly use without anybody DQing her. And then also all of her matches were one-sided on NXT. But when she came to the main roster, I 100% loved her. Well, okay, I'm starting to like her. I don't want to completely admit I'm a fan yet, even though I'm starting to get there. The fact is that all of her matches felt even. She didn't use her weave once. You saw her strengths. You saw how good she is in the ring. You saw that part of her. It wasn't just about her weave. It was about her. And that's the one thing that I liked. And when you honestly saw that Royal Rumble match with her coming in as number 3, being as dominant as she could have been, she was great. Especially her moments with Naomi. Oh my gosh, were they great. Solid. Absolutely solid. And I just hit my hand. Ouch. But anyway, the fact is, this was gold. This was 100% gold. And if I had to give it a star rating, I would definitely rate it a 5. I'm sorry. I would give this match 5 stars out of 5. I would, 100%. And I am, even though I don't have a rating system. But either or, it was a great match. Now let's get to the men's. The men's for the past few years have been the most dominant Rumble, the must-see Rumble to watch. But I have to say that the men's Rumble kind of fell short. It was a bit sluggish. It was slow. There were spots that were wasted. And honestly, I didn't like who won. The reason why I didn't like it mainly is because and Princess actually said this in our chat. Can you honestly believe that Edge has the ability to beat either Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre? Can you honestly think that he can beat either one of them clean? Even though Edge is cleared to wrestle, even though his neck has healed, that injury is still there. When you have a broken limb, whether it is a neck, an arm, a knee, whatever, you are not at 100% anymore. Especially when you get older, you're going to be at 80 for the rest of your life. Seriously. It is very difficult for anyone to bounce back after a neck injury, a joint injury, a tear. If you are older, it is hard to bounce back. Now, to be honest with you, we have seen many matches with older guys wrestling the younger guys and how clunky they look. Can we go into Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania 32? And I was there. It was the worst match I've ever seen in my life. Because number one, Roman Reigns was still green as goose crap, say that 5 times, and he could not carry a match yet. You had Triple H depending on him to make him and Roman Reigns look good when he wasn't ready for that. You have Edge with recovered from a serious neck injury that is still there. He needs someone to carry him. We saw the match between him and Randy Orton, and then it started to drag at the 8-minute mark. Randy Orton, sure, he was always having slow, boring matches. That's just Randy. But you can tell that with Edge, he has been out of the game for 11 years. No, for 10 years. He's been out for 10 years since 2011. It's 2021 now. It has been 10 years. He's been out of the game for a while. And even though he came back and made a return in 2019, the problem is that his body still isn't conditioned to go that long. And I think Undertaker actually said it best. When it comes to a wrestler going on from day to day, every single day, and keeping his body conditioned, it's easy to have a match after match after match, being on the road, traveling all the time. It's easy to bounce back. But when you stop and you go back after a year, it's the hardest thing you could ever do. It is hard to recondition your body to go back to how it was. It is extraordinarily difficult. Edge has been out of his game, out of his element for 10 years. And even though he came back in 2019, his body is not conditioned for that. It's not. He needs somebody to carry him. And in my opinion, now that we know he's won, the best person that he can go up against is Roman. Why? Because we have seen Roman's matches lately. Roman's matches are paced. well-paced at times. I'm not going to say slow, but it's well-paced. The reason why I say that is because Roman actually has learned over time to pace a match. He needs to be, Edge in other words, needs to be with someone who can actually keep up with him. Because Roman can actually be at the same level as Edge. He can make himself go further if someone is faster than him, and he can make himself go slower if someone's slower than him. Edge needs someone who knows how to pace a match. Roman is the best guy, not Drew. Drew is a hard-hitting badass that will probably kick your head off. And honestly, he can hit pretty hard. So I don't really think that Drew McIntyre is the guy for Edge. He's just not. I'm sorry. It should be Roman. And I'm hoping it is the Tribal Chief. Because the Tribal Chief needs to be put over for a WrestleMania in 2023 when he finally goes up against The Rock. But I digress. My whole feelings about the men's Royal Rumble, it was not as good as the women's. There were a lot of reviews that I have watched that actually did put the men's Royal Rumble higher than the women's. I can't do that. The reason why is because I don't think it was that good. There was nobody that I cared about. And there was also one thing that pissed me off the most. It was that almost guy, that big, huge, gargantuan black dude that for some reason is there for AJ Styles because he needs to have a bodyguard for reasons. Ended up eliminating 2 people and they made that crap legal. Why? I don't know. Like, if that is legal, then why didn't you have Retribution out there helping out Mustafa Ali? Why? How come Retribution wasn't out there helping him out? But you got this big gargantuan bodyguard to eliminate 2 people when he's not even in the match. You took out Big E and you also took out Rey Mysterio. Why is that legal? That's one of the things that bug me. They actually do allow these ridiculous moments. They make it legal in order to tell a story, even though it's not legal at all. Because he's not in the match. It shouldn't matter. He should never be eliminated at all. But that angered me so much. I was so mad. I was so mad. Because it made no sense whatsoever. Just like how Randy was faking his injury only to come out and lose anyway was a waste of time. And now, as a whole, when it comes to the men's Royal Rumble, if I had to give it a star rating, it would not be a 5. It would be a 4.5. It wasn't bad by any means, but there were moments that made no sense, especially the whole thing with Omos, whatever his name is. And then you had some slow points in the men's Rumble that was just a bit of a drag. But I can't give it a 5. I don't know why everybody else is, but that's how they personally feel about it. But for me, I'm giving it a 4.5. If I honestly had a star rating, which I don't, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But there is also a few things that bug me. Before I close this out, I gotta go into a few more things that really did bug me about this pay-per-view. Number 1, can we please kill a 24/7 belt? Like, can it die a very quick death like that Tramp Stamp Divas belt did? And yes, I'm giving credit to Spaz Phoenix for that. Like, seriously. But other than that, can we kill that title? Can it die, please, by fire? I don't care. I want it to die. I'm tired of R-Truth running randomly through stuff, especially through a match. He's running through the women's Rumble match with a whole bunch of stooges behind him to get this ridiculous title, only for Alicia Fox to get it and then lose it again. Why is it here? Why is it still happening? Can it die now? It'll be nice, because I know you had to give R-Truth something to do. And I know R-Truth's a good R-Truth by making Vince McMahon laugh, so he has to find a way to shoehorn him in somehow. But I'm really hoping that that belt dies quickly, just like the Money in the Bank briefcase. I never thought I would say this, but The Miz has wasted and ruined that whole premise. The whole idea of the Money in the Bank briefcase was supposed to give the mid-carders something to do, to give them a hope, give them some hope, give them a title shot, give them something. But The Miz has kind of ruined all that by not taking the opportunity to cash it in at the Rumble. So, are we going to get a WrestleMania cash in now? Because I hope we don't. because we know what the time limit is for that contract. You have to cash in before the next WrestleMania. You have to cash in for that year's WrestleMania, and then everything is going to expire. So we're going to get a WrestleMania cash in by The Miz. I'm not thrilled because I'm wondering if he's going to do it against Drew, which makes sense because they're on the same brand. And he's not going up against a tribal chief. He ain't that stupid. I kind of wish that there was actually a cash in tonight, but we're not getting it. But as for the winners, I don't agree with Edge because I do not believe that he can beat the champions of either brand. And I think that having a guy who has already been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, because even though he retired, he had his WrestleMania moment next to his best friend. We don't need any more passing of the torch because the torch has already been passed. There's no need for Edge to be there. In my opinion, he should be there to put people over, but it's his career, not mine. And also moving on to the women, I have never been more hyped to see Bianca Belair being the winner. Never been more hyped. Why? Because I want some Sasha versus Bianca. I want some Sasha versus Bianca, please. And I'm hoping that actually happens. The fact that she won in the fashion she did, I have never been so happy. And I'm not a fan, but I think I'm probably going to become a fan of hers. I never thought I would be. But honestly, she has impressed me, and I've never been more happy to see her win. So maybe I am becoming a fan. I shouldn't really be ashamed. But the fact is, I'm not going to say I'm an uber fan, but I think she's starting to grow on me. Or maybe it's because she has impressed me, and I can honestly see her skills for her being her instead of her being her weave. But other than that, y'all, I'm just going to give my overall judgment of this pay-per-view. If I honestly had to give it a star rating, I would have to say that this pay-per-view was 4 stars. Flat out, 4 stars out of 5. Not completely full 5, but 4 stars. This was a really good pay-per-view. It really did get you hyped up, especially if you watch it with friends. It's fun. Yes, in my opinion, the Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns match, even though it was a spot fest, kind of fell flat because we knew who was going to win. But when it came to the other championship matches, I will say they weren't all that bad. Goldberg actually was able to go 5 minutes without running out of gas. I am highly impressed. The fact that we had Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax win again, not that I really care, but the fact that Charlotte took the pin, that's kind of a feat. But then we also had a lot of great moments with the women's Royal Rumble match. Billie Kay will forever make me laugh. I love her. I really do. She was hilarious the whole time. We saw Jillian, and she looks great. She's a lot thicker than she used to be, but honestly, she looks way better. Way better now. And we saw a whole bunch of old school. That's when we saw enough legends to where it didn't oversaturate the match. There were amazing moments. It was well put together, well booked. I can't gush enough about how great the women's Rumble match was. The men's kind of fell flat, but it wasn't bad. There was a lot of things I didn't like, especially the fact that almost interfered and it actually mattered when it shouldn't have. Doesn't mean that the entire match was bad. And also Alexa Bliss, when she was about to transform into like Miss Fiend, and then they just like, nope. I don't know. I kind of wish that she did transform into Miss Fiend. It was a cleaning house. That would have been interesting. But they were like, nope, bye. It was kind of funny, but then kind of sad at the same time. Overall, like I said, this whole pay-per-view, I give it 4 stars. 4 stars out of 5. Totally. But you guys, let me know what you think about the Royal Rumble 2021 in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite match was, how you would rank it. Let me know what you hated, what you didn't hate about it, or loved about it, what have you. I am curious to hear what you guys think. Leave in the comments below. Let me know how you feel. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.